Welcome to the Battle Ready podcast, where we know that every single day is a battle. This show is about equipping you mentally, physically, and spiritually to win the daily battles. I want you to become totally free, whole, and powerful. It's time to step into your battles equipped and ready to win. I'm your host, Dr. Kalie Judge. Let's get battle ready. What's up, Battle Ready Nation? This is Dr. Kalie Judge, and we are in week 3 of the Fruit of the Spirits, and we are going to be going over peace today. And I have a very special friend here with me that is going to share a little bit of her story and how she keeps her peace amongst a whole lot of chaos. And I've got Dr. Rosie Main here with me. Dr. Rosie, say hi to everybody.
Hi, Kalie. I so love you, girl. I'm so glad to be here and just honored what you're doing and just amazing stuff you're doing for many people. And I thank you for inviting me.
You know, I'm excited to have you here with us. For those of you that don't know, which is probably most of everybody, Dr. Rosie was a big is a big mentor for me. I reached out to her probably 4 years ago and was like, hey, I want my spiritual life to be better and I need a coach for that. And I want you to be that coach. Are you willing? And of course she said yes and poured into me and listened to me and checked in on me and prayed for me. And I'm always grateful for you, for what you do, for who you are, for what God has for you. And I get to watch you be you. I get to watch you be an amazing wife and mom and doctor, daughter, sister, friend. And so I'm just so happy that you get to share a little slice of your life and your heart and what God has laid on you with whoever's listening today. For those of you that also don't know Dr. Rosie, she is a crier. So that I think it's already happening. So it might happen as she's speaking. She's also got an incredible laugh. But today we're going to be going over the topic of peace. And I chose Dr. Rosie because I know the chaos that she's been going through in the past, 2 years has really been like the big buttons. But I also know where she runs to when it's the most chaotic and who she points to. And I think you need to hear her story. So Dr. Rosalinda. That's my favorite. I like to call her Rosalinda. Can you just start off with what peace is to you, or where you want to go off? Where would you like to start?
I think that the definition that I would explain it the most, just one word, would be trust. And trusting in not ourselves, but trusting in of course Jesus. It's Jehovah Jireh. God provides, knowing that no matter what the circumstances we go through, that He is with us. And I think that's that's the foundation, that's the rock that we need to remember each time, because we all go through our turmoils and circumstances and situations and whatever storm that we have. But peace for me is just knowing and being still and knowing that he's there, that He will provide. And that's my definition of peace. And it's funny you chose me for this because you know what I've been through, and I will talk a little bit about that. But I feel like a ping pong ball, where I can have my days and moments, and even in one day I could be all over the place. And I am a crier, but I do show my emotions, and I'm very transparent about what's going on in my life, and my staff knows that, my family knows that. And so they don't worry about me, because they know in the end I'm still going to end laughing and enjoy. And so, but yeah, I feel like David sometimes, where, he would sing and then he would cry and then he would moan, and God loved him no matter where he was at, because he knew his heart. And I think that's where we need to go back to each time, is where is your heart? And that, knowing that he's there with you, is peace.
Absolutely. What can you go into maybe, what is it that, do you have some scripture that keeps you grounded, or do you have some like specific things or things that you go
Yeah,
back to?
one that I've been just dwelling on, the the one that the Holy Spirit, talks to us whenever we focus on one word. And I think Isaiah 26:3, it says, you will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. And so the word steadfast, and I think that's where it comes alive to me, because, and here I go again with my emotions, but it's that abiding. That's the other verse, abide in me and me in you. And that's where we need to continuously abide in him and trust in him and be steadfast daily, no matter the situation, whether it's good or if it's bad, that to remain. And that word, steadfast, remain, abide, be still. Those things that just you do it no matter what the result, no matter what's going on. And I think that a lot of us waver too much, because we'll have our mission, our goals, our vision, but yet the daily roller coaster of up and downs sway us away. The kind of like with Peter, with the waves, came the storms, the winds, whatever that distracted him from walking on the water. We fall and we fail sometimes because we listen to the circumstances, or the winds are too strong, and we don't just trust. And God loves us no matter what, but I think that's it, is that we're just steadfast, and we trust in him.
So, one of my favorite verses is John 14:27, and it just talks about having peace that Jesus leaves us that's beyond any understanding, that we don't know where it comes from. And there's been moments in my life where it's like, the only thing that I know to do is to call out the name of Jesus, because it literally seems like there is a storm around me that keeps on getting worse. Like last night I was driving home in my car, and the rain was coming down so hard, and the water was just all over the road, and like all I could do was like grip the steering wheel and like go slower. And that's sometimes like that feeling in life where like you feel like you just have to grip onto the steering wheel and like slow down a little bit in order to get through safely. But one thing that we have in our life is especially as followers of Christ and things like that we know that where our peace comes from, right? So for you, can you just go into a little bit about your story, the losses that you've had, the tribulations that you've gone through?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So just, to kind of summarize things. I mean, I come from a family who, like you said, my name is Rosalinda.
Cosa linda.
A Hispanic family. I mean, my dad and my mom just worked so hard just to try to, provide us the dream, the American dream. And the reality is my mom was a hardcore driver. She was driven. She didn't have any, education at all, but yet still obtained a cosmetology degree, and was one of these ladies who, just did it no matter what. Salons, she, from that money, created more salons that provided her to get apartments and real estate where when we were growing up, she provided for us, and my dad would just, whatever she needed, he provided in his own way, but she was a go-getter. But along in the midst of it, and so unfortunate for many people, as her body failed before her spirit did, she had this heart to go serve and help her family, but yet her body failed because she was diabetic and didn't take care of herself. And unfortunately, we lost her prematurely. So that was when I was young. And my sister and I have three sisters, one that just passed away. But my sister and my middle sister, the one that just passed away, was mentally ill. So we kind of had to take over stuff and grew up really quickly. It made us who we are now. But here, last probably 3 or 4 years ago, my middle sister that was sick mentally. She also was diabetic, and unfortunately got really sick to where me and my older sister, were caring for her. And anyways, it created a lot of just even more pressure on us because she was mentally ill, schizophrenic. Anyways, we just lost her here 2 years ago, my middle sister, and it was a very hard time because there was a lot of things going on in our lives, but yet we would still have to take care of her. And then here recently, last year, my dad got a stroke, and it's just been one thing after another. Now he's paralyzed in a nursing home. So that really wraps up a lot of our lives. Have been caring for people. And it's been one of those things where, if you could only imagine having to change diapers for a 48-year-old in your, when we were doing this when we were kids, and now doing it again when she was living with me, or, we were bathing my sister, and now my dad as well. Just the continuing strife with not only that, but also as a chiropractor, having a family. My sister's a nurse, and so we have families as well. We have things to deal with. So long story short, these are the circumstances that occur sometimes that you wonder and you question, it's like, what is up? Like, who sinned so bad that this happened? You start questioning all these kind of weird things for God. And where is he taking you? And why are these things? And he can't do much about them. And that's one of those things that it's been a war. It's been a struggle. And I think that the reality that's just amongst, my family life, not to mention anything else. But, the fact is that through this, and I think that this is where God has shown me so much, even within the last year, I had to make extreme changes, and I really questioned God, and I asked him, what his direction was for me, and I keep hearing these words, abide, trust, and it's so hard to trust, when you have no idea what to do, or why are these things happening, and why do people have to suffer so much? But I know that I've done that. And every day, he shows up, and through the years of just seeking the Lord in prayer and just developing my personal relationship with Jesus and experiencing just inner healing. I myself, last year, after my sister died, I began to have a lot of issues with my sugar levels as well. And knowing that my mom, because she failed to take care of her health because she just did not know. I myself know. I follow what we call the 5 essentials of health with what we do, like you do. I exercise daily. I eat right. I do all the right things, get adjusted. I do all these things, but yet my sugar was really high. And I know that the number one thing that was causing that is just a lot of stress in my life and the circumstances I had no control of. But God told me to rest. And he started to show up daily and just telling me just to trust. And through that, it's still been daily transforming my thoughts and just getting time to even just find that time for rest, because right now it just seems like I don't really have a lot of time like many of us, but we make the time. And it's been really different this next year. I mean, this year still struggle, but one thing that I had to do is I had to change. I had to change the way, not only how I perceived that stress, but also what I was doing with my life, and how I was living it. And so here recently, I changed everything from selling my home. And when I talk about my home, this was a home that just it was something that God had gifted me. I mean, it was a beautiful home, but I didn't need all that stuff that I had. So getting rid of the stuff, I'm still purging, I'm still moving, I'm still doing all that. I had to change my work. As chiropractors, me and you, Kalie, that we love serving and we love going all out for trying to help people, but I had to slow down to be able to still manage the time to go see my dad. I had to change, my schedule. I had to change what I was doing for my health, to waking up even earlier so that I could get the time in for me that I needed. I had to change a lot of things, and then just continue to going back to that trust. And I think that, we come to this place of breakdown where you're so broken that then God moves. And until you get to that brokenness, and I don't know how to explain it, but I got to that point where, I was just in a war with him. Like when you think of Jacob, wrestling with him, I was wrestling with him because I kept questioning why me. I had all those questions, and finally he said, just trust me. And I think that's where we get to a point where we need to be broken.
So you keep talking about like the amount of times that you've questioned God, right? So can we just kind of park here for a minute? Like, I've heard both ways, right? I've heard like we shouldn't question God, we should just trust. Like what do you feel when a person is questioning God? Like, why is this happening to me? Why are you doing this? Where are you? Like, where are you, God? Like, I don't feel you. How do you walk through that space in life, knowing like you're in the depths of your heart, God is there? But there's those moments, and we even read it in Psalms with David is specifically. He's like, where are you? Like, what happened? Like, you were here. You told me to do this. You told me to go through this way. And now I'm getting beat up and I don't know what's going on. I don't know why this is happening. But when somebody questions God, can you just shed some light on that? Maybe it's a person who has no faith. Like, they've never walked an inch that they feel like with God. And they're questioning, like, why would I trust him? Like, all these bad things are happening. Or somebody who's seasoned and has spent their life with Christ, and they question where he's at in certain circumstances. Do you have any input on that?
And I think that's the thing, is that following a Christian life, sometimes we think that, just this faith thing is something we just acquire as soon as we come to Christ. But it's a process of going through the battles that I think have allowed me to understand that it's all right to question him. And it's okay to battle with him and to wrestle with him on the ground. And I could even just give you one example with one season of my life trying to have kids, where, we weren't able to have kids over 8 years. Everybody starts to, ask you, when are you going to have kids? When are you going to have kids? I got so bitter with the whole concept of it because I desired kids so badly. And so anyways, I will never forget that night when I finally was at that point of I was coveting people with kids, and just anyways, anger, bitterness. And I remember cussing and just like telling him off. on the ground like a baby. And I think that he needed me to be there because he wants us to have a relationship with him. He wants us to, not just as many Christians, we think it has to be this perfect relationship with him where we're just obedient. But he wants the raw, real you, the authentic you that knows your desires, that to trust him with his desires, but that you go to him like a little kid, just asking, please, I want this. And it got to that point where he didn't give me kids right there and then, but I felt like I just like vomited on him. I said, okay, when you're ready, that's it. That's fine. I'm going to go still continue doing what I do, save lives, the chiropractic. But when you're ready, you're going to give me kids and you're going to give me 2. And I want twins. And I was very specific. And I knew that he heard me. And I just kept going. And lo and behold, of course, you know the story, Kalie. I got twins about 1.5 years later. But this is the thing that maybe that's not for you, or maybe you want kids. And that's not the idea here. The idea is that he wants you to come broken to him. And I think that sometimes we think that we have to come in like this, just perfect child to him. And that's a stinking lie. He wants you for who he made you to be. And that's where he wants you to trust him in the good and in the bad and come to him. And I think that that's what I mean by abiding. I acted like a Christian and I made abiding a Christ option. Like I since just quit trying to act like a Christian. It's not a place you're trying to get to, but a life you're living from. I mean, secondly, the thing is to abide means to you've already been placed and we've already been placed in Christ and God. And so in other words, he's already died on the cross for us. So abiding is just knowing and simply staying in a space of faith, but it's just staying and just bringing him all your, good and your bad. He wants to hear. I have this image in my office where it's Jesus and there's a little girl next to him and she's like holding her toes, and she's just like going on, like it just seems like she's just going on with all her visions and all her like dreams and everything. And he's just attentively just listening to her with such joy, whatever story she's saying to him. But the image describes that relationship of a father and a child just pouring out their dreams to him and what they want and what they desire. And that's just that relationship that you only get by truly abiding and staying and remaining in him in all things.
So I want to jump over to a different section of this conversation. You had talked about how you were having to change your schedule because of the stuff that was going on and some of the health things that were starting to rise up in your life. So all I could think of was like chaos in our world creates disease in our body. And so when we have a stressful life, when we have a chaotic life, when we have chaotic circumstances or situations that continually rise up, that's going to be a place where disease gets to manifest in. And so what are some ways, maybe not the like super advanced things that you do, because I know that you do some pretty advanced healing things, but what are some ways for someone, maybe a beginner, to let the stress out, to make sure that they're putting the proper nutrients into their body to really create homeostasis or balance within their cells and in their body? So can you just kind of pour into that for a little bit? Just really just sort of kind of go into the 5 essentials.
Yeah, definitely. I think these are the staples in every one of our lives. And I know that we, both you and me and many chiropractors, we teach this in our offices, continuing to live without interference. And I think the five essentials is about removing those things that destroy your life. And I think that most people don't think of these five things until there's crisis. So for instance, when it comes to your health, most people don't do much about it until it's too late. And then finally, unfortunately, they just either do the quick fix, which is a drug, instead of looking at what caused it. So our job as human beings is to honor those things that are staples that are not going to create stress later. And so, these things that are principles in our life are like the rocks that scientist one talked about in front of his class, where they asked he brought a jar with rocks, and he put the big boulders in, and he asked the classroom, is it filled? And they said yes. And then he put the pebbles and the sand and then filled in the gaps. And then he asked them, is it filled? And they said yes. And he brought, the sand and then filled it up. And he asked him again, is it filled? And then the water, and until finally it was filled. But the thing, we have so much time in our schedules to fit the most important things. We need to first put those rocks first. And what are those? We call them the five essentials. And these are the things that they're must in our lives. Like, for instance, number one is our mindset. And I think that maximizing our mindset, in my eyes, is that alignment from above down, inside out. So that vertical alignment. So knowing and trusting, like we've just talked about, that he and our mindset together will create whatever we express. So knowing first faith and then acting on our health. And so for instance, we talk about limiting beliefs. And so when my mom died of diabetes, and then my sister, I can really quickly just say, well, I'm going to die of diabetes, or I can choose to change the way I perceive that. And so changing the way you think. And I think that in the morning, that's where the number one essential is spending time with growing who you are, not only in Christ, but as a person. And so finding time to either do some personal development, either hearing like podcasts like this that you're doing, things that strengthen your mind and your mindset so that you grow as a person, but also just increase your awareness of how to think differently and changing your words. Know that with my kids at the end of the night, we do this as well. They do their affirmations. And then before you know it, we're like, how's tomorrow going to be? And it's going to be a great day. And we ask them why. It's because I'm going to make it. So that they've already been instilled, and these seeds have been planted in how they live and perceive their life, because we live it. And this is where I wouldn't be where I am right now if I didn't live the five essentials. And I think that's the biggest thing, that sometimes people say, well, I'm too busy, or the storms in my life. I know for a fact that I'm consistent. So no matter how crazy last night was, with all the calls my dad gave me because of whatever, is going on with him, I still got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, whether I liked it or not, because I know that if I don't have that time for me, I don't have my devotion time. I don't have my time with God. If I don't have that time for me, it's not going to be a good day. You know what I mean? And in the long haul, that's important. So that's essential. Number one is maximizing your mindset. The other, number one thing that you and I know is the nervous system. As far as, I would never just yesterday, and weekly on Fridays, I get adjusted. And that's number one thing that most people don't understand chiropractic. And I think the biggest issue with chiropractic is that people perceive it as just going for pain, when the truth is that, God has amazing power in your nervous system to function, but the structure is a vehicle. Like, our bodies are a vehicle for God. And we have been given a structure in our spine that sustain our nervous system, that carries that life potential. And like you and I, Kalie, and we tell people, it's so logical. You cut the nerve that goes to the heart, it shuts off. It's that simple. If there's nerve interference in your spine and you haven't dealt with that, it's not going to function the way God designed it. So you don't wait till there's pain in your spine from damage of degeneration. You would want to remove that interference and get your spine corrected. And so that's, as simple as that. And it's just logical. You don't have to believe in it. some people say, I don't believe in chiropractic. It's a principle. It's a physical law. You fall off the building, there's gravity. So it's that logical. And so in our home, we've always been adjusted. Our kids have been adjusted since birth. They were NICU babies because they were premature. But from the moment they were in the NICU, we picked them up and, we checked them. And this is where it's a principle that we live by. And we continue to not only do it ourselves, our family, our patients, and this is the biggest thing we do. But then also, this is what do you feed your body? And I think this is the biggest thing. So the next essential we always strive to teach, and even in my life, still, always changing the way I eat. We in our house, make sure that we don't have sugar here. I mean, there's the basic things to start changing is those things that are not of God, so what I mean by that, there's God food and there's man food. And it's so simple and logical. Again, if you just use logic, if it's not made by God, then don't eat it. But the truth is there's so much deception in food. Even if it's made by God, as and like you preach all the time, Kalie, is like even a God food, like an apple can be a genetically modified food that man kind of steal. It's like the enemy steals and destroys. Jesus came to give his life in abundance and gave us food for abundance, but man went in there and altered it, and sometimes uses people like Satan to do this. So this is where we need to start shifting and learning, and this is where we continuously educate people on what to look for and what not to do. But there's a process, it's a journey of learning. And this is where like podcasts like this, Kalie continuously brings you, and I've heard her podcast is so beautiful because she continuously makes it so simple so that anybody can start doing this at least one day at a time. And then of course, there's the exercise piece, which there's so many ways to exercise. But if you just start moving, and I think that's the biggest thing, if you're a person that's never exercised before, if you just get up and just start walking for 30 minutes or doing the simple things, it doesn't have to be that hard, but motion is life. And I think that's where not only with chiropractic, if there's subluxation and inflammation in a joint because there's lack of motion, the same thing with exercise. It actually helps your body not only increase oxygen, but nutrients to every cell, tissue, and organ. So activity is huge, and then lastly, of course, we focus on toxicity. Now I think this is one of the biggest things that's so hard because this is how the enemy is really trying to destroy our babies. And toxins, I mean, I can talk about, just a simple food things, but the biggest toxins I'm seeing nowadays is toxicity from heavy metals. Our babies are being injected with vaccines. People have silver amalgams in their mouth. I mean, I have all these things, aluminum and deodorant, all these things, these toxins. And now they want to bring 5G, which is the new way to Wi-Fi. And it's just, some things are out of our control, but you do have control in what you kind of, how you vote for, what politicians, and being involved. And knowing first that, these are issues that need to be discussed. But even just in your own home, you can, start getting rid of those things that you can that are toxic. So anything that, just has a label you don't read, I mean, you can't read when it comes to perfumes and toxins from like air fresheners and stuff like that. So there's so much to learn. But I think that we just strive for in all these areas, remove that interference. That we always say, it's a cliche in our offices, God doesn't make junk. God doesn't need help healing us. He just doesn't need interference. So the way we live our lives, when you put time in your schedule to put time for yourself to think right, put time to go get adjusted and go exercise. When you put time in your schedule to prepare your foods and the way you shop and go do the right things for your family. When you make these a priority and big rocks in your schedule, that's time management. That's what we call a war plan. And this is a war plan because it's a battle out there. The reality, the enemy wants to, again, steal and destroy. And that's where we want to live that abundant life that God has for us. We don't want to have to later on have to stress from the disease. So yeah, my sugars went up, but guess what? I changed my schedule and I fixed it. You know what I mean? And so this is the stuff that I go back, I check, I analyze. Okay, so now my sugars are down. Great. Things are changing. Is there stress still there? Is there still chaos? Yes. It continuously to occur, but that's where you just stop and you reflect, you go back and abide and trust and live the 5 essentials, and they work all the time. And it's just been beautiful to watch with my kids, with my patients, where people get transformed, but they have to see it in you first. And I think that's where it starts, that if you're not doing these things, how can you go lead others, your family, or anybody you want to go help that God calls you to help? You have to start doing it yourself.
Yeah, one of the big things that the concept that I really love is beginning to make appointments with yourself. Because I think about one of the coaches that I follow, she always talks about, like, if you got diagnosed with cancer and the oncologist called you and said, you need to come in tomorrow and start treatment, most of the people on this line that are listening would drop everything that they have going on in their lives and make it to that appointment. No questions asked, they're going. But yeah, when it comes to things like prepping our food, or getting an exercise routine in, or making it to your chiropractic adjustments, or learning how to detox your home from different things, and really like researching things for yourself, and having time to get in the Word, like, we're just so easily distracted and so easily pulled away from what we have for us. And so I just want to encourage you, if you're listening, if you listen to Rosie, like, go through each one of those points right there. Like, which one of those 5 things are you neglecting? Are you driving home from work and stopping through the fast food shop and getting a meal every single day or several times a week? Are you not working out, like 20-30 minutes of your time every single day, getting sweaty and moving and getting your body going? And maybe for you it's just like, you're going to put tennis shoes on and you're going to walk around the block today because that's the first time that you ever worked out. Start where you are and keep moving forward. You don't fall into the trap of comparison. Like, don't go on my Instagram and see that I just ran a marathon and like make yourself feel like you're nothing because you can't work out or can't go around the block. Get up and go walk around the block, because I didn't just wake up and go run a marathon. I started running 5 years ago, and it took me 5 years to get to that point. So make an appointment with yourself. And I've said this before on several of the podcasts, but stop breaking promises with yourself. And I'm guilty of this too. And there's times where I'm like, my mind gets the better of me. Right. And so that's why I'm still developing this battle ready mindset where I'm just like ready to go and ready to push through the times. Cause there's times where there's circumstances like I'm tired. Like I just had a long week. My training schedule is hard. My work schedule is hard. And there's times where I just want to lay down. Right. But I know also, like, if I do that, then I almost feel worse laying down than I would if I got some movement,
And that's exactly what I'm going to tell you as a tip I give to my patients. It's just, there is a time when maybe you need to rest and maybe take a vacation day, where, typically that would be like a Sunday for me, where I don't do all of this stuff and I just focus on my time with my family and God. But the truth is that sometimes if you just show up, 99% of success, they say, is showing up. Just showing up. And it's amazing what God brings sometimes. Sometimes I don't want to wake up at 5 and do my time with God, but then he shows up for me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? or the workout too. Sometimes I'll be working out and all of a sudden I just get this sense of urge, and sometimes I don't. I'm not saying it's always, but just showing up and just going through this process, because it's that consistency and that time and repetition of doing these things that creates that habit. But also, it just allows you to then, like you said, when you don't do it, you're like, man, I should have done that. Then you hate yourself because you gave in.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think is huge for creating peace is creating. So we call it a war plan. But one of my team members in the office, she started calling it a peace plan, which I totally love
it. Yes.
because it is like, yes, you're going into war. Yes, it is this, but I know that if you develop your schedule and schedule your life out every single week, then you have peace. Like if you know that Sundays and Thursdays are the days that you cook food and then the other days you just heat it up to eat it, there's peace there. If you know that on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you go to the gym at 9 a.m. and Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, you go for a walk with your friends, like there's peace there. You know what that looks like. And so just I want to just encourage you too, like if you've never done it, like if you have an Apple product, if you have an Apple phone or computer, or if you have a Google account, you can go right into your account and especially with Google, I really like Google Calendar. You can go in there for the week and literally like account for every single hour of the day and begin that habit. Like October 1st is coming up on Tuesday, which you guys won't hear this until the week after that. So it'll be past. Anyway, get your calendars out, go start working on your war plan or your peace plan or whatever you want to call it, because as soon as you can start accounting for your hours, you're going to realize that you have more hours available to do things for you than you actually realized that you did. And
can I just mention that as a mom, and I think that of course some of your listeners have this sense of, and I think I get a lot with my patients. They think that they're being selfish if they spend time away from their kids or away from their families, taking care of some of these things for themselves. And I believe that when you start doing this, you start to see that, the thing is this is not a selfish thing. That in order for you to provide for them, you have to have that time for you. I don't have my mom, because even though she loved us so much to provide for us, her body failed before her spirit did. And that's where it's like, I would have rather had her now seeing my kids, never, you know what I mean, playing with her grandchildren, than not having her. And this is where now I'm not, blaming her or anything. She just didn't know. Mm-hmm. And so this is where it's not a selfish thing. The time you put with, present time consciousness, that when you're doing it, you do it all out. Like if I'm going to go work out, that's what I do. If I'm spending time, you do it 100%, but then you also make time for your kids and your husband. So in that war plan or peace plan, I love that better. The peace plan is you set time for the other things that are important in your life. So your family time, you spend time, with date nights with your children, you spend time with your husband. My husband and I right now, we're moving, but typically consistently at least twice a month, we have a date night where nothing, will come and take away that time. That's our time. The same thing with my children. They know that, well, they're twins. They don't want to be separated, but they have mom time like 2 times a week. I have date nights with them, and it's 100%. So they know mom is going to be 100% with them with no distractions at this time to this time. And they love that time because they know it's just for them. I'm always here available for them, but that's just their time. And so they love that. And I think that's the thing, is that sometimes people say, well, I can't do this because I feel selfish, or I feel like, that's a stinking lie again. The selfish thing is not doing it. And then before you know
real quick, the other thing is too, is that the time that you're spending with your spouse and your kids, like, let's get honest about this really quickly. Not you specifically, just like you, listener. How many times do you catch yourself staring at Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest while you're sitting there next to your kids and you're really not even engaged with your spouse or your friends or your family? And so we have this time that we think, because we're spending time in the same room as them, that it's quality time.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was, trying, maybe, that concept of present time consciousness. That's a time where it's 100% no distractions. You put this, barrier in that time zone where all that matters is a person in front of you. And like you said, so many people are like, date day and both, they're sitting across the dinner table and they're both on their phones. And it's just like, how present is that? So, yeah. So this is where, it's applying these things in all areas of your life.
And that's so true. And like, be accountable with yourself, or even with your spouse. Like, especially now, like on iPhones, you can put limit screen time during certain periods of the day, or limit screen time on your apps. So you only have a certain X amount of minutes or hours or whatever on an app a day. Put that on, and you will be shocked how much time you are spending on your phone. And it's just crazy. So the time that you spend with your family, with your friends, with your spouse, make sure that it's intentional. Make sure that you don't catch yourself on your phone. Maybe like if you are going in the room with your kids or with your spouse or going to dinner with friends, like, leave your phone in the car, leave your phone in the other room, turn your phone off, turn all the notifications off, whatever it is that you have to do to make sure that you're present time conscious, that there's no distraction, that everything is good to go.
And can I interject with that? I mean, as a Christian, I think that one pastor gave really simple, because sometimes people think, well, I'm going to put God first in my life and my family and my mission or my profession or whatever. And what I loved how he described it is like, you put God in the center of all those areas in your life, and you live this as as if he was like in my workouts. I'm doing it not for me but for him. You know what I mean? It's to honor him with my body, and with time with my family, it's for him. For my practice, he's the reason why I go serve and love people, because it honors him. And so this is where in everything you do it for him. And I think that when we abide in Christ, and it's fully integrating into everything we do, for Christ is your life. And that's where we want him to provide for us, and we want to have faith. But faith without works is dead. You also have to act on it. And so this is where a lot of times people feel like, well, I have faith, but what are you doing for yourself? What are you doing for your health? What are you doing for your finances? What are you doing for that? And so this is where it's not just about having that consistent faith, it's having that execution, is that plan, that drive to go and actually go do it. It's just like David, going in and working in his whatever he did to shepherd or whatever. And then he had a plan, but he went to go work his plan to actually succeed when God had, him to go fight Goliath. And so this is where daily you need to go seek him, knock, but then you have to go act as well.
Amen. So if you guys, just to do a little recap, making sure that you are getting your peace plan together. Start looking at your calendar, start figuring out where your time is being spent. And I promise you that once you figure that out, you're going to start seeing how things can change and move on a little bit better. Start feeding yourself good, nutritious food, God food, not man food, not stuff with chemicals, processed things. We want to do. And maybe you're not like at the point where you can do all organic. Like, let's start eating real food. Let's just start there. If you're processed foods, if you're fast foods, change to eating real food, good meats, good vegetables, good fruits. Next level to that would be let's look at making sure that we're eating grass-fed, grass-finished meat, free-range chickens, We want to make sure that we're starting to eat organic fruits and vegetables, and start going from there. And then we can move into, okay, like, are we eating an advanced plan? Are we doing keto? Are we doing paleo? What are we doing? But if you're not there to that level, like, don't jump into that, because it's going to create failure. What I want you to do first is, my goal right now is I'm going to eat real food. I'm not eating processed food anymore. I'm not eating fast food anymore. It's just, get it out of your radar. It's just not allowed to be in there. The other thing is for working out. I love high intensity interval training. I think that it is great for all people. I think that even if you can't lift a weight, you can do that workout. That's about, I mean, you could do 20 seconds of work and 20 seconds of rest for about 6 to 12 minutes. And you'll see that there's a massive amount of heart rate increase. You'll start sweating, breathing heavy, and all kinds of stuff will be going on. So those are really easy things to start with. Of course, if you don't have a chiropractor, if you've never had your spine checked, then now is the time to go and get your spine checked to see what's going on with your spine. If you don't know how to detox your home, like, let's have a conversation on how to do that. Like, are you still using candles or Glade plugins or nasty toilet bowl cleaner? We can start shifting that stuff into, but really what I want you to focus on is your mindset, the food that you're eating, and getting a good workout in. So, Rosie, do you have anything else that you want to just close up with? Give them a last final word of wisdom before you go peacefully yell at your kids?
No, I'm going to have them actually say their affirmations to you. I think this is huge whenever it comes to just what we continuously strive to do is teach them truth. And so they're going to say their affirmations. So what do you say in the night when you go to bed after your prayers? Say hi.
Hi.
All right. So do you remember your affirmations? Can you guys say them? Yeah. Okay, go. Go.
I'm amazing. I can do anything. I'm smart. I'm talented. I'm confident. I'm powerful. I'm loved. I'm a hard worker. Never give up. Have good self-control. I make good choices. Always do my best. I have courage. Daddy's proud of me. Mama's proud of me. God's proud of me. Daddy loves me. Mama loves me. God loves me. I can do all things with Christ strengthens me.
I can do all things with Christ who strengthens me. You guys rock stars. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
But yeah, that's where I want to end with, is just own it. Say it to yourself. Trust him. And know that he provides.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing your heart, your story, your words of wisdom, and your kids' affirmations with us. Guys, if you're listening to this and you think that somebody can use this, share it with them, send them the podcast, put this on your Facebook, let people know that it's out there. It's a newer podcast, so just help me spread the words. If you want to, leave a 5-star review. That helps us with the ratings, get more people up there. I'm just so thankful to be a part of your guys' life. Thanks for spending the hour with me. I hope that you were listening to us while you were working out, because that would be amazing. If not, go work out now. Get your meal plan ready. Get your peace plan together. And go out and glorify God in every single thing that you do. We love you, and you are blessed.